Let's continue with advanced selection techniques, and we will use some airbrush variants. So let's take a look at a couple of them. Coarse spray is something you can use to imitate the effect of pigment fading out as you go farther away from the nozzle. And I'm showing you with enhanced brush ghost the direction of my stylus. If I turn my stylus in the other direction, you can see that my spray is going in the opposite direction as well. I'll change color and I will show you that finer spray does the same type of thing, but there is less pigment coming out for the same amount of pressure. Tiny spattery air has coarser droplets and some color variation built in. Digital airbrush is a very finely grained stroke that you can use for more delicate work. Let's eliminate these strokes and turn our attention to the selection portfolio. It works very much like the image portfolio, which you might recall from another lesson. If we double-click on an item in the image portfolio, it should show up on the upper left, and we can use our layer adjuster tool to move it around or make some changes to it, and we automatically get a new layer. I will dismiss that and show you that the selection portfolio also allows you to double-click on an item, but it ends up in the center, which can be a more convenient spot. Sometimes your image items are going to be hidden by a custom palette. The selection has its own selection adjuster tool in the toolbox, and this will enable us to enlarge it or whatever other size changes. And we can even rotate it. If we hold the Shift key down along with Command or Control, we can tilt that star in any angle we wish. Now I'd like to paint the star with blue on one side, so I'm going to choose Coarse Spray and tilt my stylus so that I can allow those spots of color to fade out. I will now switch to red. From the other side, I will create a spray that allows the combination of spray colors to combine in the center. Now, if I want to create a drop shadow on this star, one way to do it is to save the selection. I will save it as star. And now I will move the selection with my selection adjuster. The trick now is to subtract what's already been painted from the new selection. So I'll go back to the Select menu and load the selection I just made. But instead of replacing the selection, which is the default operation, I'll choose to subtract from the selection. And now I see the only thing that remains that I can paint is a shadow area. So I'll choose a darker color and I'll use digital airbrush and go in there with as many strokes as necessary, or one big stroke, to create that drop shadow. And I'll deselect that. I'll choose the heart, double click on it so that it is now a selection, which I will move to another position and also enlarge. And now I would like to fill that with red. And now I'm going to create a smaller heart inside of it by going to Select, Modify, Contract. And I'll contract by 7 pixels and click OK. Now I see that I can fill this interior, and I'll use finer spray with a lighter pink. And now I can show that this is going to be a paler pink. I can go paler yet if I wanted to get a highlight. In fact, let me get a highlight in the center there. And so that looks pretty good. Now let me enlarge it again and go to Select, Modify, Widen. And I'll widen it by 10 pixels. And then I will also create a Modify Border. And I'll make a 12 pixel border. And now I will paint gold on the border using my tiny spattery airbrush. And I'll do yet another trick by hiding the marquee in case I want to see what I'm doing without the marching ants getting in the way. All I have to do is go to Select, Hide Marquee, or use the keyboard shortcuts for that, and then I'm good to go. So that was Shift, Command or Control plus H. And the selection is still active. I'm painting away, but I don't have those marching ants in my way. So this was a fairly sophisticated combination of techniques. Let's do one more. Let's use the spiral. I'll move that over here. And what I'll do to the spiral selection is feather it. So we'll go to Select Feather. Let's feather that by 4 pixels, and I'll click OK. I will paint that a dark blue with coarse spray. The problem is I can't unfeather a selection, so I'm going to have to recreate or start from a fresh spiral, and I'll move it into position with the selection adjuster so that it is just about on top of it. And now I will paint that with a pale blue, and I'll use my digital airbrush here. What I basically have is a lovely spiral with a fairly fuzzy-looking drop shadow. So this was your introduction to selections, and this concludes our tour of advanced selection techniques.